You don't have a discipline problem, you have a day 3 problem. This is Habitudes Inc. 3, consistency. I'm talking to the version of you who is smart, tired, and a little done with people saying just be consistent, as if it was that easy or as if that was helpful at all. Day 1, you're unstoppable. Day 3, you're already negotiating. Day 1 is the new notebook, the new app, the new routine. You can feel the plot twist. Day 3 is the same inbox, the same kids, the same fatigue, and the habit that felt life-changing on Sunday now feels like extra work on Wednesday. Most people, at least that I've seen, don't quit on day 1. They quit on day 3 or even day 7. And then they turn that into a story about who they are. They start saying things like, well, I'm just not consistent, or this is just how I am. In Habitudes Inc. 1, we talked about who you're becoming. In the second episode, we talked about the world you're asking that person to live in. Today's about what you do after the start. When the newness is gone, when nobody's clapping, and when the only thing left is the next honest rep. Your new system didn't fail. It just met your real Tuesday. There was a season of my life where I was convinced that my problem was system. If I could just find the right tool, the right method, or even the right framework, I'd finally feel like a functioning adult. So I did what we all do. I spent an entire Sunday reorganizing my life. I read all the books, I listened to all the podcasts, I found anything and everything that could help me lock in new habits and become the person that I knew I could become. It would look like new apps, new tags, new boards. My tasks were organized by project and color-coded, beautifully organized and prioritized. If you looked at that dashboard, you would think that I was running a multi-billion-dollar organization. Week 1, I was there every day, dragging the tasks over, moving the cards, checking in, feeling so on top of it. By week 3, I was back to what my days have always been. Emails, texts, meetings that run long, kids needing something, random fires popping up out of nowhere. The app was still there, but my actual life had already moved on. The system didn't fail because it was bad. I believe the system failed because it couldn't survive a normal week in my life, and you've probably experienced that yourself. As a result, I didn't just think this tool doesn't fit my reality. I thought, of course, I'm not the kind of person who sticks with systems. I turned a mismatched setup into evidence about my character. And psychology has a name for the space between what you plan and what you actually do. The intention-behavior gap. The gap itself is normal. The problem is what we stuff into it. We don't say, life got in the way. We say, I must be the problem. And your brain actually needs repetition. Your ego keeps demanding a personality change instead. Consistency almost never feels like transformation. It feels like Tuesday. Nobody told me that when I started this journey to try to understand how to start having that kind of habits that I wanted to see in my life. In my head, being consistent meant doing the same thing every day at the same time with the same energy, the full version of whatever the habit was, and almost never missing. If that's the definition, of course you're inconsistent. You have a human nervous system and a real life. Here's what consistency actually feels like on most days. This probably doesn't matter. Skipping today won't change anything. I'm tired, and the gap between doing it and not doing it is very small. That's why it's so hard. Most of your nervous system is wired to respond to big emotion, crisis, opportunity, drama. A lot of growth happens in the low emotion, low drama zone. Habits are built where the cue and the behavior repeat often enough that your brain stops asking, do we feel like it? And it just does it. You don't build that in a weekend, you build it in a string of boring, faithful reps. For me, I'm the person who reflects wasn't built on the nights I wrote 4 pages of profound insight. It was built on the nights I chose to write 3 choppy lines and close the notebook because that's all I had that day. Those nights don't look impressive and they don't even feel impressive, but they quietly keep the identity alive. Most friendships don't die in big fights. They die in small silences. Think about someone you care about but haven't reached out to in a while. You have those little flashes in the car after you see a post when something reminds you of them. You think, oh, maybe I should check on them. I wonder how they're doing. But in your head, being a good friend means a long, unhurried, deep conversation. You want it to be meaningful, so you tell yourself you'll wait until you have time. You don't get time. You get school runs, meetings, groceries, bedtime, and just like that, weeks go by. Now, you're not just late, you're low-key embarrassed. Coming back feels like it needs an explanation, so you wait longer, and the relationship didn't fade because you don't care. It faded because of your picture of showing up. And that picture was so big, you almost never did it. What if consistency in your relationships is not, I have a deep hour-long talk with my friend? What if it's once a week, I send a 15-second thinking of you voice note to one person that I love? It doesn't feel deep. It doesn't even look impressive. But over a year, that's 52 small touches. And your identity shifts from I care about people in my head to I actually show up, even in small ways. Everything we know about habits and identity says small repeated actions reshape how you see yourself faster than big occasional ones. Every tiny reach out is a vote, not a landslide, just a vote. The moments you remember depend on the habits you forget you're doing. The 2026 World Cup just kicked off, and no matter who lifts that trophy, there's the part that we all see. The goals, the celebrations, the fans, the heartbreak. And then there's the part we don't. The months, the years of pattern work, of training sessions where nobody's filming, the recovery days, the tactical meetings. Most of football and really most of sport, and I would say most of life, is not in the moment. It's the pattern. Most of the pattern looks boring if you don't know what you're looking at. Life is exactly the same. The meaningful conversation with your kid depends on all the nights you were just there on the couch, maybe half present, but not gone. The breakthrough idea at work depends on all the unglamorous times you sat down and looked at a problem when you didn't have one. The sense of peace you want in your inner life depends on all the mornings and evenings where you showed up to your own mind when nothing mystical happened at all. We say we want the big moments. The big moments seem the most attractive at times, but your nervous system can only take those moves if you rehearse the small ones into the background. You don't need a perfect routine. You need a believable version of you that you can still be on a bad day. I started changing the question. Instead of how do I become a perfectly consistent person, I started asking, what does minimum viable me look like here? Not my best day, not the version of me I'd post about, the smallest version of me that still feels honest. If I say I'm a person who moves, minimum viable me might be a 10-minute walk in the neighborhood or on the treadmill, stretching, or maybe even getting on the bike and spinning. If I'm a person who learns, minimum viable me might be 1 page or 1 podcast segment. If I say I'm a person who's present with my people, minimum viable me might be 10 or 20 minutes at dinner with my phone in another room, not even thinking about the notifications. If I can't do that on a bad day, the problem isn't discipline. It's that I've built an identity that can only exist with perfect conditions. Research on identity and habits basically says that your sense of self and your behaviors live in a loop. Each small action becomes evidence for or against the story you're telling yourself about yourself. And over time, those votes matter more than the speeches you give yourself in the shower. Most of us aren't actually inconsistent. We're perfectionists in disguise. If we can't do it the way we pictured it, we'd rather not do it at all. Minimum viable you is how you escape that trap. Day 1 is imagination. It's dreaming, it's thinking of what could be. Day 3 or day 7 is data. On day 1, your intention is high. The gap between who you are and who you want to be feels small, because imagination is doing most of the work. By day 3, reality is reported in. Your sleep, your calendar, your stress, your environment. This is where that intention behavior gap opens up. And what lives in that gap is usually not lack of information. It's 3 things. 1, friction. This is just a bit harder to do in my real context than it was in my head. 2, emotion. You don't feel like the bright, motivated version of yourself anymore. Or 3, you decide that says something about your character. You can't completely remove friction, but you can lower it. You can't control emotion, but you absolutely can stop making it the boss. And you can absolutely, definitely, positively change the story. One way to respect your own psychology is to plan for day 3 before it shows up. Not just what's my ideal habit, but when I'm tired, annoyed, or unimpressed, what is the smallest version of this I'm still willing to do without lying to myself? If you answer that before you start, day 3 stops being a surprise and becomes part of the plan. Do less, repeat more. I know you're tired, and I'm not trying to add 12 things to your life. Here's the actual invitation for this week. Pick one area you honestly care about right now. Not the one you think you should fix, the one that keeps coming up in your head, whether it's your body or your work or your relationships or your own inner life. Write 1 sentence. I want to be the kind of person who here, fill it in. Finishes what they start, stays in touch, takes care of my body, tells myself the truth, whatever feels real, and whatever explains where you currently are. 3, decide your minimum viable action. That's just something you can do on a bad day in 5 to 10 minutes. There's no need for heroics here. 4, for 7 days, do just that. Don't upgrade it, don't redesign it, don't judge it. At the end of the week, don't ask, did this change my life? Ask, do I trust myself even a little bit more than I did 7 days ago? And if the answer is yes, even quietly, keep going. If the answer is no, don't throw away the identity. Adjust the habit. Make it smaller, closer, more honest. All the research about consistency and habit formation basically comes down to this. Frequency and fit matter more than intensity. The habit that actually fits your life will always beat the one that only fits your fantasy. In Habitudes Inc. 1, we asked, who are you becoming?